In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jar Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jar Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jar Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.
25 minutes, nothing more than that. For other areas you might not have touched on yet.
One of the things I have not touched on was the alleged $100 million that was spent on our independence anniversary. And it all falls within the figures that I had indicated. Mm-hmm. That if you look at the budget mm-hmm. that was presented and approved by the National Assembly, mm-hmm. Fisheries was allocated $561 million. Tourism, $54 million, for a total of $110 million. Water resources, fisheries and water resources, for a total of $110 million. Mm-hmm. Now, if you add fisheries, agriculture, youth, tourism mm-hmm. together, the total is $1.098 billion. Mm-hmm. Now, that is less than what was allocated to the Ministries of Finance and Foreign Affairs. It's also less than what was allocated to the Ministry of Infrastructure. Mm-hmm. What is the point there? The point is that these are our productive sectors of the economy. And if you cannot invest in them to create wealth and employment, then you end up with things like $200 million is being budgeted for entertainment, $800 million is to be budgeted for buying cars, $351 million budgeted for fuel and lubricants. Now, all of these mm-hmm. are being based on grants, loans, and taxes. That's the essence of the structure of our economy. Taxes, grants, and loans. No country can develop like that. And that is why you're seeing this huge pattern of borrowing, because gaps need to be filled. Even with the development partners, those that give us budget support in the form of grants. Now, if the minister goes before Parliament and says, the budget was late because we were waiting for our development partners to tell us what their allocations are going to be for grants, that's a serious matter. Because normally, these development agencies, and as I said the last time, I was on that side of the equation. Normally, you get your budget approved in January. You start negotiating with the government in terms of what the possibilities are. By the end of the first quarter, you have a clear idea of how much you're going to give grant support to. So March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, up to December, if they don't knock on your door, you don't knock on their door, you know they're not going to give it. So stopgap measures have to be taken in order to fill that void that the development partners have created by not supporting what you are asking for. So that brings us to another issue, which was in the public domain, but I don't think we paid a whole lot of attention to.
Which is?
Which is the AFREXIM Bank. AFREXIM.
Okay.
Bank.
The one headquartered in Cairo.
Cairo. Mm-hmm. You know, they've provided a facility, $75 million facility to the National Roads Authority.
75 million?
75 million.
Dollars, not dollars.
Dollars.
Wow.
To build 2,000 kilometers of roads. But because the National Roads Authority cannot borrow, the Ministry of Finance underwrote this 75 million US dollars. And the contours of the agreement basically says that this 75 million will be given to a local bank to disburse on behalf of the Gambia government. And guess who that local bank is?
Who's that local bank?
I don't know. I want them to come and tell us. This is the one local bank that government tends to, whose owner the government tends to give business to.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
75 million for 2,000 kilometers of roads, yet unidentified. And this has been in the public domain, but it's been quiet because the contours of it have not been made public. Now, what is surprising about this is that this bank headquartered in Cairo normally does not do these kinds of things.
So why is it doing it for us?
Because it's in their very best interest. They are the ones who are going to benefit maximally from this arrangement. And whatever bank is on the local side that is managing the resource, because as you know, the dollars are brought in, and you peg the exchange rate is controlled, and depending on the control level of the exchange rate, the dispensing bank can make fortunes out of an arrangement like this. Again, you have to ask: is this in our best national interest? Is this what we should be doing as a country? I think I think we need a critical rethink of how this government operates. Critical rethink only in the sense that huge amounts of money are being brought into this country, and you don't see their impact on the lives of daily lives of average Gambians. No matter what they say, no matter who says it, Gambians are hungry, they are tired. And I don't want to hear this business of saying the inflation rate that we are experiencing is all over the world. Yes, it's all over the world, but the rest of the world are dealing with it in more substantive ways than ours giving an excuse for it. We need to, and I think I said this before, during the COVID period, we need to have a situation where this government has to consult people who know how to do these things and create a system of palliatives to help Gambians. You know, this Ramadan, a bag of Saddam last month was 3,250. Today, 3,250. Today, it's 3,500 bag of Saddam.
Wow.
Now, onions I don't even want to go to because that has been debunked. Yeah. But the point I'm making is that cost of living in this country is high. People are falling below the poverty line. Now, for some farmers up country, they need to be paid their groundnuts. And the payment modality that they have introduced also benefits a local business person in terms of electronic transfers of resources. Now, I'm a farmer. I toil the soil for a whole year. I bring you my produce. You can't pay me. You link me up with essentially a middle person who provides the resources that you need to pay me, but in the provision of that resource, I need to have a smartphone. And if I don't have a smartphone, I have to find a way to receive my money from this individual. And when I receive that money, I'm charged a service fee. So our economic policies beg the question, where is the common sense in some of the things that we do? Now, when I say there are people around who can do these things, I honestly feel there are Gambians, very qualified, well-trained Gambians, even in the area of negotiating concessions. Some of us have done this before.
Yeah, but the problem with some of you is you are in opposition. You're in the
Yes,
you're in the UDP.
But you know, only in the Gambia do you see something like that. Because in other countries, they tap each citizen's know-how. It's up to them to knock on our door, help us. If they don't do that, we wouldn't be able to help, would we? Here, if you are not with the government, you are the enemy. No matter what you know, no matter what your experience is. And I am saying, if you go back to even Jawara's time, Jawara used to consult very widely. He used to hire people who are critical of his government to do certain specific things. Yeah. We've lost that in Jammeh's regime. We've lost it in this regime. And this is why we are in the kind of mess that we are in. Now, let us forget about the 75 million for now. Let's go to Megabank. I think I said Megabank was sold in these studios over there
yes.
in 2022. And everybody was mute. Some people send messages and say, no, you are a liar. Well, hello. Megabank has been sold.
It has indeed.
And it was sold in 2022. Only now, through questioning in Parliament, are we realizing how Megabank was sold and who bought it. But we still haven't put a handle on the amount of money Megabank was sold for. Because this is a bank that was set up by taxpayers' money. It's the taxpayers' bank. And according to my information then, they created it with about an initial outlay of about $600 million to create the bank. 600 million to create the bank. And when they sold it for another 600 million. And nobody knows where the assets of that bank are. Now, the question then becomes, who bought it? The information that is being released, not from the government, but from social media commentators, is that the people who bought it are close to the center of power in the government.
But we still don't have their identity.
We still don't have their identity known. And I think they owe it to us to tell us how much the bank was established for, what were its profit margins, because it was making money, and how much it was sold for, so that Gambians can understand the kind of economic thinkers we have. People who just liquidate our national assets without due regard to the cost factor against everybody else. The bridge was done like that. They could have made 300 million from that bridge. They made 100 million. They said that 100 million was supposed to go to infrastructure activities. We don't know what that 100 million was used for.
It could have taken care of the 75 million.
75 million that this
NRA.
This NRA thing is being done. So when we shout that things are not right, these are the concerns that we have. As concerned citizens, as citizens who know how these things are done and how to do it. So when we criticize, it is to criticize as loyal citizens of the Republic, not enemies of the Republic, as some of them tend to label some of us for. And I dare say some of us are even more patriotic than they think. Because I would not sign a $75 million or $76 million initiative and distribute it the way this has been done. I will never do that. And I don't think any one of us who've been out there, who have done these things, will do something like that. But it is being done, and it is not good for the country.
So that's a question on Megabank to be answered.
Yes.
In a world where progress never sleeps, one company stands out as the driving force behind infrastructure and energy solutions. Introducing our fuel company and cement producer, where excellence meets efficiency. Jar Oil. The company have 30 filling stations across the country that are all operating, which includes the recently completed Yarambamba and Old Yundum filling stations. And our rates are relatively cheaper than anyone else across the country. Along the years, Jar Oil introduces importation and distribution of cement in their line of business to diversify and strengthen their operations. Are you a cement retailer? At the moment, Jar Oil is the biggest producer and distributor of cement in the country with the most competitive prices in the market. With a focus on sustainability and innovation, we are paving the way for a greener, stronger future. Trust in us to fuel your projects and lay the groundwork for success. We currently produce over 25,200,000 bags per year. As the largest cement producer in the country, Jar Oil also targets to export cement to the neighboring countries like Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Conakry, and others. Join us on our journey to shape a world where every drop of fuel and every bag of cement makes a difference. Together, we can build a brighter tomorrow.
The other issue is the 9.8 million euro that was given to a local entity to buy 100 buses from the Social Security Housing Finance Corporation. Again, people are going to say you are cherry picking. I'm not cherry picking. I'm establishing a pattern that shows that our economic planners have tended to rely on certain easy methods of financing initiatives than meets the eye. Now, this 9.8 million euro at today's exchange rate is about $715 million. Now, you cannot borrow against pensioners' funds to invest in a bus system, especially a couple of years after the president presented a fleet of buses at McCarthy Square. No, we can say those buses may not be enough, and we are not saying buses should not be bought. We are questioning how those buses are being bought, especially borrowing from Social Security Housing Finance Corporation. I have an elderly brother.
An entity in which government literally does not have a single butut. This is my contribution and, everybody in the private sector. In the private sector.
Contribution. It's a pity because I have one or two close relatives who are pensioners. And, Peter, when they tell you the amount of pension they earn after 40 years, it's pittance. And these are some of the things that could have been used to create wealth for these people.
One said to me, "Manda made dajale suma boss be mut ñenenti wër juromi wër ma soga mëna am lo xamne dina fessuma boti tuti."
Exactly.
I mean, if you have to forgo your pension.
In my case, one of these people 6 months. And he goes and takes. Now, between that time the payment starts and those 6 months, he's on his own. There is no support system for him except for support that we give them. Now, in the
you have only about 8 minutes.
Yes.
So
in the budget again, there is a provision for renovating the vice president's residence for $63 million.
But that's dollars, definitely.
$63 million, yes.
That cannot be dollars.
No, it's $63 million. But the reason why we are raising it is, when the change happened,
yes,
Barrow was renovating State House. He stayed in the VP's residence. When he left, it was renovated. And after that, when my party leader was appointed vice president, it was renovated again for him to occupy it. He decided not to occupy it. And now this is another renovation over those two renovations, all within 8 years. We are saying, please reconsider some of these expenditures because they are not in the best interest of average Gambians. And if you recall, when the late Barara Juf was appointed, there was a lot of brouhaha over renovating his house in Banjulunding and putting internet facility. All of those are related to the vice president's residence. We should leave it at that. And let whoever is going to live there, live there. And when they live there, including our parliamentarians, they shouldn't be getting housing allowances. They shouldn't be getting housing allowances.
Including our parliamentarians? Including our parliamentarians. The Alaji Dabos and the others, even from the UDP side?
Everybody. The reason why you give a residential housing allowance is because you don't have a house. If you don't have a house, government used to make it possible for you to borrow to get land. I mean, they will give you land and they will make it a facility available for you to borrow against and build. Until you do that, they pay you a housing allowance. Once that is done, the housing allowance stops. Now, these guys, they enjoy a housing allowance, all of them. And I think one of the penultimate oversight functions of a legislature is to look at budgets like line item by line item and vote down those line items that are not in the best of the national interest. You cannot be living in your house and you are still being paid a housing allowance. I think that is wrong, and I'm saying across the board in the National Assembly. That's how I feel. Yeah.
Final point, maybe. Was that the penultimate, or was it the final point?
No, the final point is the 301 million that was disbursed.
We will have everything in time because we have 5 minutes remaining.
Yes. The final point is the 301 million that was disbursed to the IEC. And we are raising that. I mean, everybody is aware this was a huge issue in social media. Gambians were up in arms and saying, what is this 3 million for? Who did you give it to? I think an audit was conducted on it, and the auditors found out that the resources were put in the individual accounts of IEC staff who refused to provide bank details for the auditors to be certain that these resources were put. Now, that thing is dead now. Nobody is talking about it.
Okay.
But it strikes...
When you say dead, it's not out in the public domain. But the IGP sat there and he said, they had completed their investigation and the file had been forwarded to the AG's chambers.
You know what?
No.
We should ask the IG how many of these investigations are complete and have been taken to court and have been adjudicated. Now, this whole issue of we are investigating, it's being investigated. It's fine to investigate. But what is the outcome of these investigations? I watched your program with the IG. I think he made a very good case of saying we are not just sitting on our laurels, we are working. And anybody can say, yes, we are not sitting on our laurels, we are working. But what is the result of those investigations?
Just complete on this IEC because you have just 2 more minutes.
We are saying it strikes at the heart of free, fair, transparent elections. Now, when all of a sudden government disburses 300 million to the electoral body, and it's not part of their operations cost, and it ended up in the bank accounts of staff of the electoral body, we have to question what was it for. Was it in lieu of payment for rigging the 2021 election? Or was it in payment in lieu of something coming up? We need clarity on this, and we are challenging the government to come out and tell us exactly why they disbursed this $300 million to the IEC.
And just before I let you go, since we're on the IEC issue, I just announced this morning that Ali Momar Njai has gone.
Yes.
He's no more got anything to do with the IEC. Right now what we have is an acting IEC chairman in the person of Joseph Koli.
Yeah.
I'm sure the UDP, is interested in who becomes the next IEC chairman. All Gambians who vote, for that matter, should be interested in who becomes the next IEC chairman.
You should be interested.
I am.
So Gambians are interested. And that's why my party leader mentioned it. He says, the Constitution says that you appoint somebody who has the qualifications of a Supreme Court judge. That's the person that should be appointed.
Supreme Court judge?
Yeah. Supreme Court or High Court judge.
We've not been getting it right.
We've not been getting it right. And that is why we have issues with our elections.
Well, you just ruled me out.
Well,
I had designs on the position, but
no, if we are in government, you wouldn't have it. We are going to follow the law and appoint an individual to head the IEC that is got the qualifications of a Supreme Court judge. That is how it is done everywhere. You see, Ghana's recent election, the lady that I had the privilege of working with her in setting up the Hybrid Human Rights Commission in Ghana, and she was a High Court judge at the time. Yeah. So this has to happen. I like to have one more word on all these contracts that are being signed.
Very quickly, yes.
Now, as we are seeing from next door Senegal, when the auditors do forensic audits on these contracts, they establish whether they think these contracts are in the best of the national interest of the country. And so far, every contract that is coming out of Senegal is not in the best national interest. So I'm saying to those who contract these frameworks, both on the side of the government and on the side of those who are beneficiaries of these contracts, please understand that the status quo may change. And if it changes, all these contracts are going to have to be subjected to a review, whether it's UDP or DOI or whatever. The things that are going to come out will make it incumbent upon the government of the day to investigate whether these contracts are signed in the best national interest or not.
And Larry, on that note, I thank you for coming.
Thank you.
We must end there. Larry Cisse of the UDP. Thank you for listening for Coffee Time with Peter Gomez this morning.